On October the 12th of 2016, my life changed forever. That was the day I met my daughter, Brianna. It was the most unexpected and unusual circumstance that brought her into my life, and one that can only be explained by an act of God. At age 18, she had just aged out of foster care, and sadly, she had become homeless and was living on the streets. One day, out of desperation, she called the church where I worked looking for help, and her call was routed to me. And as I began hearing her story about how she ended up there alone and scared in a McDonald's bathroom with nowhere to go, God moved in my heart, and I decided to drive to that McDonald's, and I picked her up. And that is where our story began. We brought Brianna into our home, and we became her family. She quickly bonded with my kids and our other family members. We spent all of the holidays together. We had hopes of adopting her one day, and she even started calling us mom and dad. It was the most powerful thing to watch this young, broken girl begin to experience God's love and grace for the very first time. She grew so close to Him. She devoured every sermon she heard. She began studying her Bible. Her favorite thing to do was to be in the presence of God, worshiping Him. We often did that together. We began praying together regularly, and she would write in her journal about what she was learning and how God was working in her heart. I loved her faith in God. I loved watching her grow in her relationship and experience new things about Him. In a matter of months, she got her GED, she got her driver's license and a car, she got a job. She was making huge strides in getting her 2 little boys back, and she was on the road to recovery from a drug addiction. She got involved in church, and she was volunteering. She started having Bible studies of her own with her friends. She was so bold for Jesus. God began mending relationships from her past, and little by little, God was putting her back together. But we also had some difficult days as she dealt with the emotional scars from past abuse and addiction and the mental illness that she had battled for a long time. As she began to spiral down, her faith in God was still strong. She would cry out to Him and reach out for Him. And we prayed and prayed for God to help us all through that struggle. And we believed He was going to see us through it, just like He always had. But in February of the following year, our lives changed again. Actually, our world came crashing down the night we got the call that this child whom I had grown to love as my own had made the decision to end her life. There are no words to describe the amount of pain and heartbreak we felt and still feel. It was a nightmare that we are still trying to wake up from. So many questions. How could this have happened? What could I have done differently? It made no sense. I didn't understand how God could go to such great lengths to save her and prove His love to her, and she still make that choice. In the aftermath of her death, it would have been easy for me to turn my back on God and blame Him. Sure, I was angry and hurt and confused and heartbroken, but somehow through my grief, I still believed that God is good. I think what helped me stay close to Him early on was reading through her journal and reliving all those moments of how He was working in her life. And also the most amazing things started to happen. I began getting messages from people, from her friends, wanting to know more about this Jesus that she came to love. I got to share the gospel with people because of this tragedy, and many of her friends got saved because of it. Her twin brother Brennan was one of them. Brennan's life is also a miracle. The fact that today Brennan is walking with Jesus is a testimony of that. Grieving is so hard. I have days that the pain is unbearable. I still hurt. I still get angry. I even get angry at God sometimes for not stopping her from making that terrible decision. But in those moments, I feel Jesus with me. Sometimes it's through the little things like a hug from a friend or a random text message, or being able to watch her 2 boys grow up. I can also feel him when I read her own words that she wrote in her journal. It's in so many little things that God proves himself to me, because he reminds me constantly of all the little ways and the huge ways that he proved his love to her. I love that, because when I'm in that place of fire, that overwhelming pain, I remember his promises for me, that he has peace, that he has joy, that I don't have to be afraid of the fire because he's there with me. And even if my heart never fully mends, I will never stop worshiping him, because I believe he is good.